Hey guys, welcome to Freedom Intelligence Network. Today's guest is Ms. Lhagyari Namgyal Dorka. We call her Namdol. Namdol is such an amazing youthful leader of Tibet, and she's a member of Tibetan Parliament in exile. She's currently living in Dharamshala, where we have visited last year, if you remember our my video from last year in November. So Dharamshala is located in India, and it's north of Delhi. It is where His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama lives in as well. And today, by the way, Namdol is wearing the Tibetan costume called chupa, so you will enjoy that as well. And she's just not a normal Tibetan woman. You will be really surprised by how smart she is and how sophisticated she is and everything. So I just can't wait for you to hear her words. Her words come straight from her heart, and I hope that you can feel that too. So let's get started. Hello, Namdol.
Hi.
Hi, you guys.
First of all, would you give us a brief self-introduction?
Well, I am Namdol Lhagyari. It's strange when I'm introducing myself to you guys. Here in India, my family, my Pala and Amla, my late father and my mother, they've come from Tibet. My late father, he was a former political prisoner who was in prison for 20 years and 6 months because he chose to protest against the People's Liberation Army. And however, after his completion of the sentence, he came here in exile, and he served the Tibetan government in exile as a member of parliament. And yes, I completed my studies here in a Tibetan school, and then I went to Delhi University and Garhwal University, completed my master's in English literature. And I've come back to the Tibetan community as a Tibetan freedom activist, and currently serving as the member of Tibetan Parliament in exile. So I guess it's a short intro about myself.
So today is May 17th. So of course the Panchen Lama's topic is very important, but because people will be watching this from around the world, we want to first talk about how things are there regarding coronavirus and so on. So how's the current situation of Tibetan refugees, such as those who are just like you in Dharamshala, and like coronavirus influence, economic situation, measures in India, and so on?
That's a lot of topic.
It's general.
Comes to, as I said, we have a Tibetan government in exile here. So the Tibetan diaspora is taken care or under the administration of the Tibetan government in exile, which is the legitimate representative of the Tibetans inside and out. So during this difficult time of China coronavirus, the CTA is taking all the initiative that it's that it should, to make sure that the Tibetans within India and Nepal especially are under the guidance and support of the exiled Tibetan government. And it has just recently sanctioned a large chunk of money for that purpose. So yes, that's what CTA is doing. Apart from that, of course, there is government of India or within the Tibetan diaspora anywhere across the world. The different countries are taking care of the Tibetans like any other respective citizens. So I guess in India, it's a very difficult time. Right now, India is almost reached the number of almost 90,000 victims of China COVID-19. That's a very bad number considering the fact that we have had lockdown for a very long time. So I guess the decision by the Prime Minister for the lockdown was a very good decision, because I don't think India currently is equipped at all, medically or economically, to take care of the disaster that the mistake of China could bring about. I guess the mistake that we have done here in India is the fact that we did not act swiftly when the world was slowly getting to know about, especially in certain Asia, the different countries were acting swiftly. They knew about this coronavirus, how deadly it could be. However, we did not see the same reaction from India. Anyhow, that is a situation. Economically, I think India is suffering. But I guess if I would be in a decision-making position, I would think about saving the lives of the people and the social impact that it could bring, apart from the economic, disparity that is coming up. And one major problem that is coming up in India is the problems that the migrant workers are facing at the moment. And because of the lockdown, people are not able to go back to their homes. And when they are, allowed to go, they are literally shoved in trucks to return back home. Very few state governments are taking care of making sure that their citizens are safely back home. That is what's happening at the moment, which is sad, but then it's also important that they return back home with their family members. So I guess everything was happening too fast. Lots of problem happening. So I think the central government was not able to react as soon as it should have. So that is pretty much what is happening currently in India.
I see. So how is Dharamshala in particular, especially His Holiness teaching and so on, like how things changed?
For the Tibetan community inside Tibet or in the free country, the health of His Holiness Dalai Lama is utmost importance for us at the moment, and that was the reason why long before the China COVID-19 was declared pandemic, His Holiness stopped giving audiences. So that was a very, very good move by the Office of His Holiness, and I'm grateful for that move that they've taken. And it was just yesterday that His Holiness gave his teaching after a very, very long time. So it was a virtual teaching that he gave, perhaps the first ever teaching that he's given where he could not see the audiences. But I guess the new world that we are slowly adapting ourselves to, and considering the fact that our health is more important, these are the steps that we should be gradually taking. And in Dharamsala, I think the state government is doing everything it can to provide support for the people, the locals and the Tibetans. We have seen, especially in this particular district, Kana district that Dharamsala is in, the TC and the SP, they are being very active. They're doing all they can to make sure that the coronavirus does not spread, leading to chaos. So I guess so far it's not been so bad.
So now we would like to talk about the main topic of this interview. So today marks 25 years since Tibet's 11th Panchen Lama was abducted. And even though Panchen Lama is very known among the supporters of Tibet throughout the world, we don't think that it's very much acknowledged by ordinary people in the world. So could you explain how Panchen Lama is to Tibetan people, and what kind of incident was it 25 years ago?
Yeah, I believe the world is aware of the fact that Tibet is a Tibetan Buddhist majority area where perhaps around 95% of the population are Buddhists. And when it comes to the Tibetan Buddhists, His Holiness the Dalai Lama has always been the head of the state, both politically and religiously. Apart from His Holiness the Dalai Lama, His Holiness the Panchen Lama had played a very, very important role. And it's not just religiously again, politically as well, how these two have shared a very important and very significant relationship. And it's, that relationship makes, Panchen Lama, the reincarnation of Panchen Lama, a very important figure. Because people might say, okay, what is it? Are we talking about just one young Lama? It's not just that. Because the world is currently talking about reincarnation of the 14th Dalai Lama. They understand how important the Dalai Lama is, and that's how the relevance of Panchen Lama comes in. because for generations, Panchen Lama and the Dalai Lama have recognized each other as incarnation, the next reincarnation. Therefore, the Panchen Lama plays a very important role to decide the future of Tibet. That's why 25 years back, His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama recognized the then young Gendu Chogyam Nyima as the 11th Panchen Lama. And the moment the Chinese government, the Chinese official found out that he is now recognized, his family, the abbot of Tashilhumbo Monastery, the seat of Panchen Lama, who came to recognize him as the next Panchen Lama, they all were enforcedly disappeared. So currently the situation is such that we do not know whether Panchen Rinpoche is alive. We don't know if he is alive, where he is. Because the international leadership, the United Nations, especially with the working group of the enforced and involuntary disappearance and the UN Committee for the Rights of Child, they have repeatedly requested the Chinese authorities, the Chinese government, about the whereabouts of Panchen Lama. And the most recent statement by them, that was last year, perhaps in September, was that he is in safe support of the Chinese Communist Party, and that he wants to be left alone as a normal citizen of China. So this is what we have been told. But history, the modern history has been an evidence to the Tibetan community that we don't trust them. We cannot trust the Chinese government. So when they give us such statement, we can't trust them. And therefore, we remain worried. Firstly, whether His Holiness the Panchen Lama is alive or not. If he is, where is he? So this is something that we are very concerned about. And it's not just about our religious freedom or religious persecution of Tibetans inside Tibet. It's about the basic fundamental rights of Tibetans inside Tibet and how this so-called atheist government is barging in the religious activity of the Tibetans that we have been practicing for centuries. Now, these religious activities are politics for them. And they're barging in, they are committing all sort of crimes like this, and therefore we are worried for future of Tibet. Where is Panchen Rinpoche? So it's been 25 years, and I hope that the international leadership continues to pressurize China, because by now, perhaps as a blessing in disguise through the China COVID-19, I guess now the world does not trust China. They know that how much fabrication China does. So they must understand that we cannot trust any sort of statement that China is giving. Therefore, I guess the United Nations and the world leaders and the world community must pressurize China into questioning them. Where is Panchen Lama now?
So regarding that, we heard that the US is asking China to release Panchen Lama. And what are your thoughts on that? Like America asking?
Well, I believe it's not just America. We've had many different in European countries and Asian countries have pressurized China, asked them, requested them to, and let us know where he is. If it's possible to send in a independent investigation into making sure that we meet the Panchen Lama. So we're grateful for all the governments who have taken a just decision into questioning and pressurizing China. So I think this is something that not just US, but all the countries around the world who believe in basic human rights, who believe in justice, who believe in fighting against such barbaric and authoritarian communist regime, they must pressurize them. And it's not just about Panchen Rinpoche. There are thousands of Tibetan political prisoners who are unjustly arrested, sentenced by the Chinese government. We want to know, why are they still in prison? Why are they suffering? Why are they tortured? And what is their crime? So this is something that we are all asking.
So the reason why we mentioned America was because we were we wanted to also ask you about the Tibetan Policy and Support Act, which passed in the U.S. House of Representatives, and we find it very significant that such a bill becomes a law. And so, what do you think about those like passing in the U.S.?
I commend and I appreciate the stand that the House of Representatives has taken. It is a stand, hopefully, it is a law, it is a bill, hopefully, that will be passed by Senate and hopefully later signed by the President of America. This is something that we're hoping for because this is not just a bill. Once it turns into a law, it will ensure that China is in check. Because what China is doing at the moment is they are acting as the boss of the world. They are assuming that they are not answerable to anyone. No world leaders, no United Nations. So I guess once this law comes in, the government of US will be able to question China. And I think the most important thing for me as a Tibetan living in free country is the fact that this bill finally officially recognizes the exiled Tibetan government as the legitimate representatives of the Tibetan people. So that's why it's important for me. Secondly, it's important for me because the reincarnation of the 14th Dalai Lama is something that China is very interested in. They are already preparing for a post-Dalai Lama situation. And that is something that we all should be prepared for. Now, once this law is passed, China cannot just barge in the decision of this religious decision of the Tibetan people. This law will ensure that the reincarnation of the 14th Dalai Lama is decided upon by Office of His Holiness and the Tibetan people. That got nothing whatsoever to do with the Chinese government. And thirdly, I think it's important because now we're talking about how in the past we've had consulate, American consulate in the capital city of Tibet, Lhasa. And we understand how that played an important role in the 80s, when the Tibetans, when there were protests happening, they could safely run in to the embassies and request for support. So I believe that Tibetan movement has so far we have been laid behind by 60 odd years because of the lack of international presence within Tibet. The international community, the world leadership are not granted to enter Tibet. Leave aside the media enter Tibet. So hopefully once this law is passed, we can see a consulate, US consulate in Lhasa, and that could make sure that the basic fundamental rights of Tibetans are looked upon, are seen, and so that the US become a witness of the freedom of Tibet and of the Tibetan people. So for me, this law is important, not just because it'll make sure that there will be economic support by the US government. Of course, these are important for the administration, for the smooth running of the Tibetan exile government and the promotion and conservation of the Tibetan culture and language. It's important. I understand all these clauses of this, the bill. But then for me, these three are the reason why it's very, very important for me. And I hope that the US citizens will be able to reach out to their Senate and hopefully to the president so that this law will be passed. And like the law that secures and supports the Hong Kong people that was passed, I hope that this new law, this bill that provides support for the Tibetan people will be passed as well.
So of course, you and I, we are all a team, right? We belong to the same network and everything. But we want to know what you are doing, like aside from our activities, like what are you up to?
Well, for me, I've always believed that the reason why I was born in this particular family that I was born in, the reason why I was born as Tibetan is for me to continue this fight. Fight against injustice by the Chinese Communist Party against our people. So that's what I've always believed, and that's the reason why, for me, the Tibetan freedom movement is utmost important for me. And therefore, I believe that we need to make sure that we are able to navigate as many Tibetans into this freedom movement as possible. I believe that each generation is important for the freedom movement. I know that my late father was not able to return back to Tibet as he wanted, as he dreamt, but I'm trying to continue this dream. I believe that even if I am not able to see, I'm trying to be optimistic here, and I believe I will be able to return back to a free Tibet. But even if that doesn't happen, each generation will make sure that this seed is passed down to the next generation. And so this is not just a dream, or this is not just a motivation of me, Lhagyari Namgyari, but every Tibetan, I believe, every Tibetan across the world, because we have seen Tibet as a great independent nation, and then we saw the occupation of our country by the Chinese Communist Party, by the so-called People's Liberation Army, that caused death, that caused murder of Tibetans. And now we are looking at them acting as if they are promoting equality, a so-called ethnic, I don't know the terms that they use, ethnic harmony and everything, but the reality remains that Tibetans inside Tibet are still suffering. They are still not able to how do you say, conserve themselves, protect themselves from the disregard of the Chinese government. So this is something that every Tibetan is hoping for, that we continue this fight and that we are able to garner as many allies as possible, like you guys, and then so that we can continue a fight against the Chinese Communist Party. Because what we are looking at right now, because of China's COVID-19, is China is not just harmful for Tibetans, not just harmful for certain Mongolians or the Uyghur or the other countries, but for the entire world. We've seen how dangerous they could be, how their lies could lead to death, literally deaths of many people. So we've seen that, and therefore, for me, as one individual, as somebody who have seen your family under so much distress, who have seen destruction of your people, death of your people, I believe that it's important that each one of us fight against this regime. So I guess I'm pretty much involved in this, perhaps succumbed in this movement. And this is what I am doing at the moment, apart from my role as a member of parliament in exile. So yeah, I guess this is what I'm doing. And I appreciate all the allies that I've been able to meet, like you guys, through FIPA. And I hope that more and more people become aware of how important organizations like FIPA can be, how important a role an organization like FIPA can play into making sure that China is in check.
We actually interviewed an American guy before this, and he was pointing out how collectively we're way more powerful than China. So we are totally on the same page as you, and we really hoping to keep fighting with you on the same side and against China.
I guess all the countries around the world is say in India, America, when we are talking about these countries, Japan separately, we all are relying heavily upon China economically. But then I guess the world entirely has to realize that if we come together as a team against this top dog, we will be able to bring that down. And to, I guess this China COVID-19 was a big alarm for us into making sure that for us all to assure a safe world, safe globe, we have to make sure that we challenge China. that China cannot continue this fabrication, this and it's shameful for China to not being able to express a bit of distress, a bit of repentance against this crime that they have done. And therefore, the world now has to come together and learn that only when we come together, only when we take a collective action, can we bring this regime, authoritarian regime, down. And history is an evidence. We have seen many regimes fall down. And I believe that there will be a time when this Chinese Communist Party can fall down. And it's upon all of us, each one of us.
Now is the perfect time to do that.
It's not going to be easy.
Yeah. Yeah. As for this interview, we're going to end it here, I think. So thank you, Namdol.
Thank you.
So that's the end of this interview. I'm pretty sure you're shocked right now by all the things that she talked about. Now, we talked about the bill in the US. It's called the Tibetan Policy and Support Act. And we are really hoping that you guys will make it happen. All the people in the world, those who are on the side of free world, we are waiting for the bill to pass and become law. So just so you know, she's actually a member of this organization called Free Indo-Pacific Alliance, which we call FIPA. And my husband, Hidetoshi, is vice president of the organization, but so is Namdol. And we are working closely together all the time. So you'll be hearing from her soon enough. So in the meantime, if you can, please support us on Patreon. Freedom Intelligence Network has our own Patreon page. So if you want more information or updates, please check it out. I will link it below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, take care and we'll see you soon. Bye.